Some stories don't begin with a scream. They begin with silence, with dust, and with something left behind. Luca was 13 when he stayed at his grandmother's house for the summer. It was the kind of house that still creaked when no one walked and smelled like old books and dried lavender. His parents had gone overseas for work, and the small village in northern Italy seemed like the safest place to wait. He spent most of his days reading comics, chasing lizards in the garden, or helping Nonna bake biscotti. But on the third day, something changed. It started with a game of hide and seek. His cousin Matteo dared him to hide somewhere no one ever goes. So Luca climbed the steep wooden stairs that led to the attic. The door had no lock, but it stuck like it didn't want to be opened. With one heavy push, it groaned open, revealing a room filled with shadows and forgotten things. Boxes stacked to the ceiling, old furniture under white sheets, and the smell like time had stopped breathing. Luca didn't find a good hiding spot, but he found something else. Behind a crooked wardrobe, one wooden floorboard sat slightly raised, loose. He stepped on it. It creaked, then shifted. Curious, he knelt down and pulled it up. There, hidden in the darkness beneath, was a small, leather-bound book, aged and soft, with initials etched in gold. E.M. He opened the cover. The handwriting was elegant, written in deep ink that hadn't faded. The first page simply read, "This is not a diary. This is a memory I've borrowed from tomorrow." Luca didn't understand. Not yet. But he would, because in the days to come, that book would write its way into his family's story, and it would begin again with a name. The name was Giovanni, written in bold ink, under the date July 14th, 2003, a date that had already passed. Luca turned the page again, and again. Each entry detailed something that felt strangely specific. Giovanni collapsed in the field behind the olive trees. The sun was too hot, his breath too short. That was the exact place where Uncle Giovanni liked to walk every morning. Luca blinked. The handwriting wasn't shaky or poetic. It read more like someone recording what had already happened. At lunch, Luca quietly asked Nonna, "Wasn't today the day Uncle Giovanni fainted in the garden last year?" Nonna paused, surprised. "Yes, how did you remember that?" Luca just shrugged. That night, Luca couldn't sleep. The attic felt heavier somehow, even though he wasn't in it. The book was now under his bed, wrapped in a scarf. But even wrapped, he felt like it was watching him. At 2:13 a.m., he took out the diary and turned more pages. More names, more dates, more entries. All of them matched someone he knew. Zia Carla slipped on the stairwell, August 9th. Cousin Matteo broke his arm, September 1st. Luca whispered to himself, "Is this someone's imagination, or is it real?" Then he noticed something chilling. All the entries were written in the same handwriting. But the ink changed over time. Older entries faded brown. Newer ones, still black, and some looked fresh. He flipped to the back. 3 blank pages. Then one more entry, half-written. Luke, it stopped there. Like the pen was taken away mid-sentence. Luca dropped the book. It fell open on the floor. And when he reached to close it, the page had changed. It now read, "He knows." But who knows? Luca stared at the sentence, hoping it would change again. It didn't. The room felt colder. The silence grew thicker, like the house itself was holding its breath. Luca pushed the diary away. He didn't want to touch it anymore. But the next morning he did. He told himself he'd throw it away. Maybe burn it. Maybe return it to the attic. But before he could decide, he flipped one more page and found another name. It was Carla, his aunt. Next to it, the words, "She misses the step. The pain is quick. The silence is longer." That same morning, Zia Carla slipped on the stone stairs leading out to the garden. She only bruised her leg, but Luca saw it happen. And the silence was long, nearly 20 seconds before she spoke again. That night, Luca locked the diary in a drawer, but he still heard it, the sound of pages turning when the house was asleep. By the third day, there were 2 more names written in the diary. Matteo, a broken arm. Nonna, a dizzy spell in the kitchen. No one died, but the pattern was terrifying. The events didn't feel random anymore. They were building up, like a story being written towards something, and then Luca saw it. A blank page, dated 7 days from now. There was no name, just one sentence. The last one remembers everything. Luca didn't know what it meant. Not yet. But something wanted him to find out, and it would let him find out in its own way. Luca woke to the sound of whispering right beside his bed, but the room was empty. The window was shut. The wind wasn't blowing. Still, the whisper returned. Softer now, not in the air, but in his head. He sat up, eyes wide, scanning the dark room. Not in the air, but in his head. Locked, and yet it sounded like someone was reading it. Out loud, a voice, male, calm, like a bedtime storyteller. Only the story wasn't over. Luca rushed to the drawer and flung it open. The diary was exactly where he left it, closed. But his hands were shaking, and when he touched the cover, it felt warm. He opened the book. The page turned itself, a new entry. He opens the drawer at 3:47 a.m. His heart races. He wants to scream, but doesn't. It was describing this exact moment. Right down to the time Luca ran down the stairs, through the hallway until he stood outside, barefoot on the cold tiles. But the whisper came with him. He couldn't run from it, because it wasn't behind him anymore. It was inside his thoughts, his memories, his future. And as he stood there, he knew the diary wasn't recording history. It was creating it page by page. Luca stood there, gripping the diary like it might explode in his hands, because suddenly the future wasn't just unknown. It was being written in advance, and not by him, but for him, or worse, through him. The next night he stayed up. No lights, just the diary, and a pencil. He wanted to test it. He wrote a name, his own. Next to it he scribbled a sentence. Luca eats nothing tonight. He waited. Minutes passed, then hours. But at exactly 9:00 p.m., he reached for food, only to realize the fridge was empty. No one had gone shopping. Even his grandmother forgot. Coincidence? Maybe. But the next night he wrote something else. Luca dreams of the voice. And he did. A dream so vivid, it felt like possession. He couldn't move, couldn't speak, only listen. To that calm, male voice reading. The diary was now reacting to him, or responding. And then one morning there was a correction. His writing had changed. His sentence was crossed out. Underneath it, new handwriting appeared. You don't write me. I write you. His pencil fell from his hand. That was the last time he tried to write in the diary, because it wasn't his anymore. It wasn't his anymore, but it wasn't done with him either. Luca tried to ignore it, tried to hide it, tried to forget. But every morning, the diary would be there on his desk, open to a fresh page. Even when he locked it in a box, even when he threw it outside, it returned. The entries were no longer just about him. Now they mentioned others, names he didn't recognize, events that hadn't happened yet. Then one page made him freeze. On the 17th night, the fire alarm will go off. That night, at exactly 2:17 a.m., it did. No smoke, no heat, no reason, just the screeching wail of a truth he couldn't escape anymore. Luca stopped going to school. He stopped sleeping. He just watched the pages turn until one entry appeared that didn't describe today or tonight. It described his end. The last page is written. He reads it at dawn, and then nothing. That night, Luca stayed awake. Dawn approached. The diary trembled, and when he finally opened it, there was no text. Just a blank page. Then slowly letters began to appear. Not words, not warnings, but a single question. Who's writing your story now?